our inaugural Liberty Basic and Run Basic video chat. So if you are at YouTube right now, then you should search for my name, Carl Gundel. That's C-A-R-L-G-U-N-D-E-L. One word, and then the screen should show up. If it says please stand by starting soon, then you should refresh your page. And
inaugural
basic. There it goes.
Our inaugural video chat.
Oh, I got a little bit of a loop going here.
So if you are at video chat,
YouTube, turn that off.
So if you are search for.
Here we go. Well, that's what happens when you do this for the first time. You have all kinds of interesting glitches that happen. But now I believe we fixed it. All right, so I have a whole bunch of you already waiting here to chat. Let's see, hi to Noble and Rui and Brandon, and hi to Richard and Robert and Chris and Rod, and I got a whole bunch of people here. Do any of you actually see the live chat? Let me ask. Do any of you see the live transmission yet? And let's see the magic of the internet working. Oh, there we go. They're all responding before I can even type the question. That's great. All right. So it's been a while since we've had a chat on the internet, never mind one with a video feed. And this is hardly what I would call high quality video, but you know, it's amazing anyway. So hoping that we'll have quite a turnout. I'm not sure what the limitations of this Google streaming platform are exactly. I think you're only allowed to have 10 people actually video chatting at once, whatever that means, but looks like quite a few people can just chat and watch the video, and that's all we really need. Okay, so there's a lot of ground to cover, and I know many of you have been using Liberty Basic for years or decades, and some of you have been using Run Basic, I presume. Anyone here using Run Basic or have tried it? Hi, Janet. Wow, long time. That's great. It's been slow going development in Liberty Basic and Run Basic for a while, and I appreciate everybody's sticking with us. Excuse me. So can everybody hear me all right? How's the audio coming through on this feed? Let's see, how does that work? Oh, Brandon says we can have up to 100 people on the chat. I don't think we'll hit 100 people, but I'd be really glad if we did. Okay, so I know some people have been testing Liberty Basic version 4.5 since I've been working on it for a little while, and you're wondering when it will appear as an actual released version. And I am shooting to have another beta release out by the end of the month, and my goal is to make that a release candidate. So that means that if nothing is found that will prevent me from releasing it, it will, after a couple of weeks of you all kicking the tires on it, will be turned into the actual 4.5 release. And then I am going to work a little bit on Run Basic because I have a couple of interested parties who want to use it for real work, and I have promised them that I will release an alpha of version 2 for them to play with so that we can get some momentum on that. And so that's the plans for the immediate future. Does anyone have any questions? I'm fielding questions. So I would say another thing I'd like to mention that I have brought up in the past is this concept of what I've called Basic Forge, which is a subscription service, which means that you would buy a subscription to Basic Forge, and what that would get you is a continuous stream of all of our products. So the latest versions of Liberty Basic and Run Basic and even Just Basic as they're being developed, and access to whatever I'm currently working on. Then that would mean frequent builds and that sort of thing. Wondering what people would think about that as a business model, as another way to buy Liberty Basic and Run Basic. Let's see, what are people saying here? All right, so the audio is working fine, and someone says the video has a timing delay. It does. It seems that YouTube lags behind its video transmission, and a few seconds after I say something, it takes, it's hard for me to tell, 15, 20 seconds, I think, for it to come out on the other feed. So it lags behind the chat a little bit. Let's see. Oh, I have a couple of people saying they're using Run Basic. That's great. Noble asks, how is the cross-platform development coming along? It's an excellent question. I have tried running Liberty Basic 5 on the Mac and on Linux, and it does work on those platforms as it is now, because all of the things that I've developed at this point have been built-in functions. So it'll be really interesting when we get to the point where I have to support native interfaces on all those platforms. So if you want to call a library, that's where you run into the incompatibilities when you have cross-platform between those three things, you know, Windows, Linux, and Mac. So, but what I'm going to be aiming for is enough general functionality that you won't need to do that very much. So, for example, with Liberty Basic version 4, the support for built-in widgets is workable, but people need to call APIs a lot to do certain things. And with Liberty Basic 5, hoping to minimize the need to call out in order to make the widgets do what you want. So they're way richer than Liberty Basic 4 widgets, and then cross-platform compatibility, at least in the GUI space, will be pretty easy to accomplish most of the time. So let's see, what do we got? Who is here now? Michael says he's down. What does that mean, Michael? All right, well, let's see. What would people, what if, let's say at this moment, if there was one or two features in Liberty Basic 4.5 that you would like me to sneak in under the radar that you wouldn't think would be too hard, what would you ask for? Michael says a web browser widget would be awesome. That would be awesome. Maybe Michael can help me write that, web browser widget. No, that would seriously be something that would have to be used as a, like on the Windows, that would probably be a COM object, and the equivalent for the other platforms. Dan asks, will Run Basic ever support real DBs even with ODBC? Yes, it does now. Actually, Run Basic 2 supports anything that uses ODBC. So you can run it with SQL Server or MySQL or Postgres or whatever. You can get I've even used it with SQLite with an ODBC driver. So it does work. And native SQLite support, it does that. Well, Run Basic does that. Noble, are you asking if Liberty Basic will do native SQLite support? Let's see. I'll throw that into the mix here. Run Basic does. There we go. What else? All right, so people are responding here. Line wrapping text editor. That'll be, I'll have to think about that. Replace in-string function. Well, Michael, that would be an interesting thing to add. Let me think about that. Oh, Noble says native. All right, native SQL support in 4.5. Of course, I asked. So, well, Dan, I'll add you to the list of people who will get a preview of Run Basic 2. How does that sound? Just send me an email privately. Adding. Oh well, no, I didn't. Noble, I didn't mean SQLite in LB 4.5. Sorry, I meant in version 5. Rod asks, where do you get to with using Run Basic as server on tablets and phones? Okay, well, Rod, right now, Run Basic is, as you mentioned, a server. In order to run it on a tablet or a phone, that would be quite a trick. That would be a lot of work for me. I probably wouldn't be able to do that in the short term. I think I'm going to have to stick with Windows and Mac and Linux for the short term on that. Sorry to say. So let me see if I make sure I don't miss anything here. So I'm just looking at the chat, making sure that I don't miss anybody's questions. Okay. Well, I think that SQLite is not too hard to do in Liberty Basic version 4.5 right now. I think it's documented pretty well in the con forum, but I haven't tried it. So anybody care to chime in about how well that works or not? That would be great. All right. So one of the cool features of Run Basic version 2 is AJAX, or update in place web page features. So you don't have to reload the whole page when you change the contents of a page. Excuse me. Which allows for really cool web applications. Let's see, Dan says, How far will into the web will LB5 go? Dan, Liberty Basic is at this time not really going to merge with Run Basic, so I will probably add a few more things like the ability to send emails and interact with websites, but Liberty Basic is not going to be a web programming platform. We can. Okay, let's see. Brandon says more functions and such for support of arrays, support for an include command, which people keep asking for something like that. And Liberty Basic 5 can do something like that, what's not called include. Support for user types. You can do something like that with Liberty Basic 5 already. And let's see. Oh, Noble says that SQLite does work well for what he uses it for. That's good. Glad to hear that. Maybe we should include some kind of SQLite library with version 4.5 so people will have an easier time taking advantage of that. That's a thought. And did I miss anything? Scroll back up here. Will, I did miss something. Will Run Basic have native JSON support? That's a good question. You know what? I gotta admit, I haven't really given that much thought, Chris. So if you would send me an example of how you would like that to work, that would be great. So then I have a concept at least of how you would use that in our Run Basic application. That would be helpful. Thanks. All right. And because in order to have JSON support, you kind of have to have a bit of a JavaScript interpreter in your server, don't you? I don't have that right now. Let's see. All right. So these video chats, I'm thinking that I might do this every once in a while. And I'm also thinking that I might start making regular YouTube videos, instructional things, or short videos about an idea, a concept, things that people find useful. And my use of video as a communications medium in the past has always been very limited. And I think that this could be a very useful way to promote what I'm doing. I haven't taken advantage of it. Okay, Brandon says, I built myself a program using Liberty Basic to do all the stuff I described, but having it in native LB 4.5 would be great. Either way, not necessary. Oh, Brandon, I'm not sure what you mean. Sorry, let me scroll back up. What were you writing? Oh, yeah. So, Brandon, what specifically what is not necessary either way? Yeah, well, we have 24 people watching this video right now. That's a lot of people. I'm surprised we have 24 people, but we have a large community. So I shouldn't be too surprised, should I? I didn't promote this very much and a very short notice, so to have 24 people watching is great. Thanks for watching. All right. So Chris says, sure, I think I can put a demo together. A demo of JSON, I guess. Meaning example code. That'll be great. Looking forward to it. What do people think about the idea that I fielded about the basic forge concept as a way to market Liberty Basic and Run Basic? Android. Dan, you want to run on Android, meaning you want to develop an Android app that runs on the tablet without the need of a server at all? Michael says, why is that a surprise? Next time there'll be more. I'm sure you're right, Michael. I'm sure you're right about that. And yeah, Duck Eye, how would you like the callbacks improved for Liberty Basic 4.5? What is there a specific API or a library or a DLL that you can't use right now that you need the callbacks to be improved for? Subscriptions. Yeah, Michael asked about subscriptions. Right, that's related to the basic forge idea. I wouldn't stop selling. Liberty Basic if I started selling subscriptions. It would simply be another way to buy Liberty Basic and Run Basic. Michael wants to subscribe yearly for all ShopTalk products. Well, that's pretty positive. I like that. Every year, Michael wants to send me money. Wow, that's great. Okay, Atari used to use APX to market stuff in the past. Oops, dating myself. Well, Noble, I actually still have an Atari game console, so you're not alone. Fun stuff. Will Basic Forge give subscribers some dedicated support? That is an excellent question, Brandon. And yes, I have included that in my design for Basic Forge, which would be a dedicated support forum for subscribers so that you would be able to get support directly from me, not just in the community forums, but a members-only forum with faster turnaround on support. Let's see. Well, Duck Eye would like to eliminate the need for wmliberty.dll to intercept messages. Okay, I get it. I'll have to think about that. All right. Rod wants to merge the user groups for Run and Liberty Basic and LB5. We could think about doing that somehow. I'm not sure how we would do that yet. I have discussed in the past this idea of actually rolling a community and support forum in Run Basic. And it would be good to have a project like that for the community to work on. And it would be available, if we did it right, it would be available as an actual application that people could use to support any software or community, and it would be written in Run Basic. So we would be eating our own dog food, so they say. And that's always a great way to push software forward, is to use it to support its own development. The Shoptalk Developers Network. Oh, that's not bad. Has a good ring to it, yes. Yeah, I guess it does. Sounds pretty good. I think the biggest problem with window messages currently is simply its current execution speed. Or what are we referring to there, Chris? Exactly. The wmliberty.dll or something else? Okay, Chris says, Liberty Basic already has the framework for natively working with window messages. But it's simply not able to keep up with the amount of messages received natively yet. Oh, well, Chris, then I'm not aware of exactly what you're referring to. So another example of where this is a problem would be good. Can you send me an example of a short program that demonstrates a performance problem? Would be really great. Thank you. So the speed increase in Liberty Basic 5 may help that already. It might, Chris, but Liberty Basic 5 uses a completely different mechanism for handling messages because it's cross-platform, so it has to do things quite differently. So whatever DLLs we're currently using to solve problems with Liberty Basic version 4 will be used differently, or will not be needed, or we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I'm going to try and eliminate the need for libraries for such things as much as possible. So, okay, Brandon, that would be great. I could use an example for the Windows message issue. That would be great. Thank you. I gotta scroll up here and make sure I'm not missing anything because it's all coming fast and furious. All right. I guess I haven't missed anything. Okay. You know, I've been thinking recently, I know that we stopped producing a Liberty Basic newsletter. I know I used to produce one years ago myself, and then the community took over and and had a good run of it, and made a lot of really cool stuff. And more than 100 issues of the Liberty Basic newsletter. And I think it would be great to try and organize this to start that back up again. I think that we have a even bigger community. We have a lot of very talented people and a lot of enthusiastic people. And so I'd be interested in hearing from all of you about whether you'd be interested in writing articles for a newsletter again. Brian asks, what is the estimated time LB5 will be completed and available? I'm going to have to say what John Carmack said at id when he was trying to release Doom, or it was Quake, wasn't it? He said, they kept asking him, when will it be shipped? And he said, when it's ready. Sounds like a cop-out, but I think what I need to do is I I think I just need to start getting more alpha releases out in the short term and start pushing the development forward again. It'd be hard for me to give a release date for it because I've been working on other things. But my goal is to start working on it again very soon and to have alpha releases coming out regularly again. Michael asks if I can show my screen and show off some of the new LB5 and Run Basic 2 features on your screen. That would be cool. Maybe for the next video chat I can do that, but I'm not set up to do that right now. This whole video chat idea is something that I'm gonna have to develop in terms of what I'm ready and able to do when we start the event. I honestly don't know how to use the software yet. I'm sure this thing has features that I'm not aware of. So Michael suggests we scrape the LB encyclopedia for newsletter content. Might be able to do some of that. And Duck Eye says, we don't need a new newsletter. We need new regular articles at the Liberty Basic Programmer's Encyclopedia. Excuse me. Well, that's a good point. I think that there is merits to both approaches, and perhaps the newsletter could be created as an aggregation of new things in the encyclopedia, so they would be one and the same thing in a different format. Chris says we need to be publishing content before we can make it into a newsletter. So I'm guessing that what you mean by that, Chris, is that there isn't very much being added to the encyclopedia. Okay. What new widgets will be added in the future? Well, that's an excellent question. Things like, date and time spinners and spreadsheets and grids and things like that. I'll post a list in the con forum so people can see. I'm new to LB and I'm looking to have a Windows 8 screens with realistic instruments for an ROV. What's an ROV, Phil? With a window displaying a live video. Is LB suitable for that? That's a good question, Phil. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly how you would do that, but it probably can be done. People have done pretty interesting things like 3D flight simulators and stuff like that in Liberty Basic. It can be done. Lots of things can be done. People have done very clever things. William asks, any plan to speed up some of the LB functions, such as 4 next, really slow down between 3 and 4? I don't think it has slowed down between 3 and 4, William. I would be surprised if it didn't actually get faster. But Liberty Basic 5 is going to be a lot faster than Liberty Basic 4. And if you haven't tried the alpha versions, you could download and give one of those a try and see how much faster it is. It's close to 10 times faster for many things. And Noble says that we need to start the contests and challenges on the forum. That's a great idea. People really enjoy those. It's a very inspiring thing to do for people, is to create games and tools, and or sometimes just fun little programs that do something interesting. So let me see. Remotely operated vehicle usually means underwater remotely operated vehicle. Oh, that's what Phil was talking about. You want to have music in a remotely operated vehicle, Phil? Okay, I'm game. I'm coming over. We're going to work on it right now. Let's see. Okay, so Rui asks me if I work alone in development of Liberty Basic and Run Basic. At this time, I do. I was working with another excellent software developer for a long time named Scott McLaughlin, but we're not currently collaborating on software at the moment, although we still have lunch. He's a good guy. Went from 6 flops to 16 flops. What went from 6 flops to 16 flops? And what's a flop? Let's see. 6 months of Basic Forge membership for contest winners from Michael. Oh, there's an idea. That'll motivate people. That would be good. For the fishes. What? Music for the fishes? Is that what you're saying, Noble? I think that's what the whales are for. They make music for the fishes. Flip-flop. Flip floating point operations. Isn't that what flop means? Yeah, there we are. That's what William, he agrees. So I knew what the answer was anyway. I was just being difficult, as usual. Floating point operations per second. Per second. It's not just floating point operations, it's per second. All right. So what about asking if anybody here has an interesting example program, a game or utility or a library that uses some cool functionality of Windows or internet that they would like to submit to for inclusion in Liberty Basic 4.5. I'd like to call out for that. Interested in whatever anybody's been doing that other people might find useful or instructive. That would be really great. Brandon says that if you saw a decrease from Windows 7 to 8, it could be Windows. It could be. I have a laptop that runs Windows 8, and it's a pig. That thing is so slow. Let's see. But I wouldn't be so quick to make that assessment. I mean, I would say that Liberty Basic version 4 is generally faster than Liberty Basic version 3, but you may actually have a use case, some code that runs slower on 4 than on 3, and that would be interesting to see. Might not be that hard to find an example, but I think that overall it's faster. Creative Commons. What about Creative Commons, Michael? Oh, I see. Well, I think we would have to ask the individual authors who participate in the Liberty Basic Programmers Encyclopedia for permission to include all their stuff in a newsletter. Or, you know what? You could do it under the blanket of the Liberty Basic Programmers Encyclopedia. You call it the Aggregated Liberty Basic Encyclopedia newsletter. Still the Liberty Basic Programmers Encyclopedia. Okay, so what do we got? We saw issues when 8.1 came out and with the floating point math where Liberty Basic 4.5 was crashing. Yeah, that's right. There was a bug in Windows, but I also put a fix in version 4.5 as well. I saw that too, but it was a bug in Windows and they did fix it. I got some complaints for people shortly, and then the complaints just stopped. So Microsoft did fix that. Basic. Well, so Phil's asking Michael how his Arduino interfacing is progressing. That is a cool idea for addition to the included examples in Liberty Basic, because so many people are doing that Arduino stuff. And I'm not really sure if it would make sense to have some kind of Raspberry Pi related stuff there too. Could be. Could be that interfacing with the Raspberry Pi is a great idea. And promoting to the whole Maker community is a great idea. And I actually included Maker and Make Magazine as tags in this video, hoping that people would see it. Just as a point, I haven't really said it for those people who don't know anything about Liberty Basic or Run Basic, but these are both programming languages designed to make programming accessible to anybody, any casual hobbyist, tinkerer, somebody who likes to make their own things would find Liberty Basic useful and interesting and fun to use. So makers unite, around Liberty Basic. This is the spirit of the whole thing. For me, when I got into computers, you could understand the whole computer. And so, you'd buy a Commodore 64 or a TRS-80 or something, and you go to the store and you buy a book, some kind of spiral bound book, with 200 pages in it. And then inside that 200 pages you'd get everything you needed to understand that whole computer, the whole thing. You master that thing. You could do anything with it. And computers aren't like that anymore now. You can't just turn the computer on and it be instantly ready. It has to load gigabytes of stuff first, and you're never going to understand all that stuff. But that's the problem, is the computers are too complicated. I had this idea. I would really love to do this, but I don't know when I would get around to it. But I have this idea that I could create a version of Liberty Basic that runs on the Raspberry Pi, and it would run on the metal basically, or on a very thin version of Linux underneath that you would never really have to see. And you could get a disk image, or you could put this software on an SSD card and plug it into your Raspberry Pi and turn it on, and it would just boot instantly into this version of Basic. You would have a Neo home computer, and you'd be able to do all the things people use Raspberry Pis for in the Maker community, like control the I/O pins and draw graphics and play music and do all kinds of cool things. All be built right in. And it would be free. And so it's kind of a pipe dream. I think that it's not out of the question for the future, but it's not something that's going to happen soon. Would be really fun. Okay, so what are people saying here? All right, Arduino. Oh, wow, you guys have been really chatting since I started spouting there. I'm not going to be able to keep up. You guys are talking too fast. Oh, here we go. Michael's answer to the Arduino. He says, it's simple, but I have my light blinking. Oh, that's great. You know, a blinking light is the first thing you do with an Arduino? Let's see. Are you looking to support version 4.4 in Windows 10? Yeah, I will. I am going to support version 4.4 at least until after Liberty Basic 5 has been out for a while. So yes, the short answer to that is absolutely yes. All right, and Chris says they've got some basic Arduino stuff posted on the forums. I think that would be great to have this stuff polished and presented as an example for Liberty Basic. It's, you know, what would be useful? What can you do with an Arduino with Liberty Basic out of the box? Blink a light. What else can you do? All right. And okay, someone says, KC, I'm just going to call him KC, says, I'd like to see graphics functions that allow me to double buffer without the use of DLLs. Yes, well, you will have that with Liberty Basic 5. You can draw on a bitmap without drawing on the screen, and then you can do all kinds of things you want to it. You can display it, you can save it, you can copy it to another bitmap, you can do all that. It's all in there. Let's see. Chris says, because of the serial port, it's fairly easy to communicate between LB and the Arduino. That's good. Well, I mean, short of some sort of, you know, cross compiler that takes Liberty Basic and turns it into machine code for the Arduino, which I'm not planning on doing. Wouldn't be interesting, though, to have some kind of basic interpreter. Somebody must have written one for the Arduino already, I would think, some simple thing. There's not much memory in those devices as far as I know. Does Smalltalk use native Windows GUI widgets? Okay, well, Liberty Basic 4 uses native Windows GUI widgets, but Liberty Basic 5 will use emulated Windows GUI widgets. But for the most part, you won't be able to tell the difference because it will use the Windows drawing code to display these widgets, so they will look like the real thing. And same with the Mac. With Linux, it's harder because they have different, there's no standard look and feel for a Linux machine. Everybody has their own desktop manager, their own Windows manager, and it all looks different. So that's harder. Okay. I'm running. Somebody, oh, Chris is already running Liberty Basic 4 on Windows 10. That's good. I'm very glad to hear that you're having success with that. Microsoft has been very good at backwards compatibility. This is something that Apple doesn't really care about. Apple makes it difficult for people to be backwards compatible. In one way, that's really good because it means that they push themselves forward with new ideas really fast, and they're not afraid to make things obsolete. There's some really good aspects to that, but then Microsoft is really good at keeping things backwards compatible, and that's really smart too. That just has, you know, different advantages to each approach. Okay, so Yeah, the double buffering is, as Rod agrees, the double buffering is great, and I think that you'll be happy with Liberty Basic 5 in that respect. Windows 10 will be free on Raspberry Pi. Phil says, "Oh no." Well, that's probably something to avoid. I mean, for a real maker, you know, someone who's really interested in making stuff probably won't run Windows 10 on the Raspberry Pi. Microsoft is incorrigible. I don't know why. They have more money than they know what to do with. Simple direct media layer. Noble, I don't think Liberty Basic is going to have simple direct media layer unless my Smalltalk vendor includes that in the VM that they write for Windows. So I'm assuming that SDL is a Windows technology. But you will be able to use COM objects. So if you have a COM object that uses SDL, then you'll be able to take advantage of that. I'm assuming. Yeah, Chris mentions the ARM build of Windows on the Raspberry Pi. There is currently no ARM targeted version of the Smalltalk virtual machine I use. I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe that will change in the future. That would be really great. Michael mentions Motif as the standard look and feel for Linux or Unix. And that's true. That's the standard. It looks pretty old-fashioned now, but it's kind of cute looking, but it's very old. Steve asks, is Liberty Basic version 4.5 available for download? Not right now, but it will be by the end of the month. So I did have a couple of releases of it for people, but they were time limited because I did that for my own sake so that it would encourage me to step up the speed of development. SDL is a cross-platform layer for games. And it is a DLL for Windows, etc. Well, you may be able to use the DLL. I can't really say yet. Does it work with Liberty Basic version 4.5? So I will be working to enhance the video game writing capabilities of Liberty Basic because I'm trying to consider how the sprite engine can be improved. And built-in 3D capabilities may be in the future because I have access to OpenGL libraries and things like that. So I may, if it makes sense, if it's not too complicated to add some simple OpenGL capability, then I may do that. No promises, but it shouldn't be too hard to do. The question is whether or not it will be easy enough for people to use. And I don't know yet. Yeah, Liberty Basic 4.5 was so named as a version number because Liberty Basic version 4.04 was a bug fix only release. All of the point O or point X number, minor release versions are bug fix release only versions, but 4.5 has new features in it, which is why it's got a major dot release number after it. And so there's new stuff in there. Not a huge pile of things, but useful stuff like access to more memory, a lot more memory. And because in the past, I kept the available amount of memory at 70 megabytes because I was trying to optimize the garbage collector. But with newer machines with a lot more memory and a lot faster processors, it made sense to lift that. So now it's at 1 gigabyte, which is a huge improvement. And I also added the ability to jump around in the code in the editor, the ability to control click on things, jump from a branch label in your code to the actual position of the library that branch label refers to, and various other things. Tom mentions that the Raspberry Pi has a Squeak version of Smalltalk. Yes, it does, and that's probably what I would use, that or something called Pharaoh, which is based on Squeak. They both run on the Raspberry Pi, and they're both excellent platforms. Squeak is probably the better of the two for that particular community because it is just so loaded full of fun stuff that I could wrap a version of BASIC into. It's a very colorful and playful environment. So Squeak is a cool thing for hackers and people who like to play around with stuff. Okay, well, I guess Phil has left us. You guys are talking too fast for me. I can't keep up. I think I'm just a motor mouth, I don't know when to stop talking. So you guys are saying things and I can't follow you. What? The beagle bone black. What's a beagle bone, William? And this is another one of those little boards that people use. Is that popular? The Beagle board. What is a Beagle board? I could look it up. With the release of Liberty Basic 4.5/5, is there any thought of changing your LB conform user icon? I'm not sure I follow what you mean by that. As a marketing move? Like a raspberry. No, I'm not going to use a raspberry or, oh, I see. Oh, the beagle bone is like a raspberry, much more powerful. Well, the Raspberry Pi is cool and it's cheap, and that's one of the things about it that is so good, is the price of it and the size of it. And I don't know why they decided to use this proprietary graphics chipset. They haven't changed that, have they? That really not a good idea. Everything about that should have been completely open and accessible to the end user, but they botched it as far as I'm concerned on the graphics chipset. Beagle Brothers Software. Do you think that's what they named the Beagle Bone after? Beagle Brothers Software. Yeah, it was a fun company back in the Apple II days. I think I have some of that downstairs. It's been a smiley face forever. Oh, he doesn't want me to have a smiley face avatar anymore. But that's my standard thing. I always write. I draw a smiley face whenever I sign my name on something. So it's actually very much me. to have a smiley face as my avatar. So I don't know if I'm changing that. Maybe I'll make my own smiley face. That's a great idea. With a mustache. Okay. Beagle Bone Black is pretty unpopular, Tom says. Okay, let's take a poll. Who here has not heard of Beagle Bone, and who has heard of Beagle Bone? Okay, we have how many people chatting here? It doesn't say how many people are chatting. Nope. Okay. I'm still using version 4.03. Did you fix beep? Well, I can't fix beep because that's Windows. Windows did that to you, I'm afraid. Just like Microsoft decided not to support their own help file format anymore. What? I don't understand that one. Figure that out. You can actually, you can make a beep by just saying, by using the play wave command and not giving it a real name for the what to play. It will just make a beep, I believe, or it will play the standard beep noise, whatever it is. Okay, so here we go. People are saying, well, all right, what, 32? There's 33 people. It says 33 people watching. Oh, that's true, but I don't know how many people are chatting. But 33 people watching, definitely. That's good. So, all right. So somebody who has not heard of, okay, the Beagle Bone. So someone says, okay, don't take my smiley face. Wipe that smiley face off of your screen. I've heard of it. I own one. No, Tom owns one. Heard, no. Heard of it. Not popular. No. Have one. Have the Beagle Bone. What is Beagle Bone? Okay. I don't know. A lot of people seem to have heard of it. Maybe it's not that unpopular. It's certainly known, but is it expensive? Does it cost more than a Raspberry Pi? I have no idea what it is. Well, it's a bone of some kind, you know, for a beagle. I have a terrier. I'm going to make my own product called Terrier Bone. 30 watching now. Oh, uh-oh. Starting to go down. We're going down. But they are so at backwards compatibility. Backwards compatibility with what, Michael? Carl. $45 for a Beagle Bone. That's not a lot of money. Anyway, no, I think we need to stop talking about Beagle Bone. I think we're scaring people away. We've only got 29 people watching now. Nobody wants to hear about Beagle Bone. So we've been at this for an hour now. So I think I'm going to officially wrap this up. And we'll try to do this again. We'll try to do this once a month. How's that? And in the meantime, I am going to try and post some other videos, some other YouTube videos that will have updates or interesting information in them for people. Maybe some screencasts of examples how to do things, or demos of LB5 or Run Basic for people to look at. And so I appreciate everybody coming. This has been fun, and I hope it's been informative for everyone. It's I think it's time to call it quits for today's broadcast, and thank you all for coming. So have a great day. Until next time.